What's up guys, Salem Rebels Off-Road. I'm gonna show you how to build this snorkel for significantly less than buying a kit. Stay tuned, you're not gonna wanna miss this one. All right guys, so before we begin, I just wanted to say, a lot of you might wonder why I went up the center. That's so if you get tippy in a hole, the snorkels are in the center and it won't go underwater. That won't be the first thing to go underwater. It does limit some visibility, so you have to keep that in mind when you're backing up the rear view mirror. You don't really have a very good view on that, but that's something we can live with. Just a little disclaimer, if you choose to attempt this snorkel build, I accept no liability with regard to instructions. This is just an example on how I built my snorkel, but you are incurring all inherent risk associated with snorkel building. All right, let's get started. So we headed down to our local Lowe's to pick up some pipe fittings and some plumbing supplies. We need two 90-degree street elbows, three 45-degree elbows, one tight 90-degree vent elbow, one rubber 90-degree elbow, two 4-inch to 3-inch rubber adapters, three rubber couplers, and one 5-foot piece of straight pipe, as well as one 22.5-degree elbow. We're gonna be using the Warrior Riser tips on our bike. You can get them at snorkelingatv.com for about $130 ship. If you don't wanna use these, you can save a little bit of money by just using some straight PVC pipe and doing your own fittings as the tip. But we thought these Warrior ATV tips looked really nice and professional, and we didn't mind spending a little extra money on them. Okay, so here's a little cost breakdown of all of the supplies that we used. Of course, a couple things are missing, such as the PVC pipe cement, as well as the tools that we'll be using. So I suggest you watch this video fully before selecting all your materials that you're going to need. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna climb up into our KRX and remove these three push pins. We used our push pin pliers, which made super quick work of this. Next, we will be lifting away and removing this plastic cover. We're just gonna set it aside now because we'll be using it later. With the cover off, we can now see that we need to remove this screw. It's a Phillips head, so we used our drill and we quickly and easily removed it. After we removed the screw and set it aside, it was time to start loosening up some clamps. So we started with the belt intake clamp. There's a blade screw on the clamp, so we just swapped out the bit on our drill. Next, we got down onto the bike and moved to the wheel well, where we would have a better view of the next clamps we would be removing. Next, we're gonna loosen up this one here and this one up here. We also needed to remove this wire harness, so we pried down on the clamp and it popped free. On these upper clamps, we weren't able to get a screwdriver on it, so we used our 1/4-inch ratchet drive and a 7mm socket to loosen these. Next, we're gonna loosen up this clamp right here. This is the engineer intake clamp. We used just a regular Phillips head screwdriver to loosen this one up. Once the clamp was loose, we moved back up top side and we removed the rubber fitting. We just pried up around the air box and then we were able to remove it the rest of the way. After that, we removed the belt box intake rubber fitting. And then we were able to pry and twist out the intake plumbing. Next, we're gonna remove this screw here. This one's for the belt exhaust. Need a little stubby screwdriver to get fit in there. And now this can come out. We're gonna go ahead and pull this breather tube out of the frame and pop this out, pop it off the clamp. We're gonna be rerouting it up the snorkels, but we're just gonna get it out of the way for now. Okay, so there's a little tab right here on the belt intake. We're gonna pull out the little push pin that holds on the coil wires. We're actually gonna have to cut off this tab here so we can get the fitting on there that we need for the snorkel. We used our Sawzall and we carefully cut off the tab. Be extra careful here, you don't wanna cut it into the tube or nick the coil wires. Once the tab was cut off, we used some sandpaper to smooth out that plastic. Next, we needed to remove the upper coil from the coil bracket. There's a little spacer behind it. You don't want to lose these, so make sure you don't let them fall. Next, we marked and cut down these spacers. We're going to cut 1/4 inch from each of these. Next, we're going to install the coil with these cut down spacers. New cut down spacer. This will give the air intake snorkel a little bit more room to be routed. Now it's time to lay some pipe. The first snorkel we started to build was the belt air intake. We needed a 3-inch straight piece for this, so we marked and cut it with our chop saw. So we're going to take our straight 90-degree elbow and put it on our 4 to 3-inch rubber adapter. Then we're going to take the straight piece we just cut and install it on the other side. And use a 45-degree elbow, we will install that on top of the straight. You may have to twist the 45-degree elbow to get it to line up so it goes straight up. So we're going to mark the orientation between the two elbows using a Sharpie marker. That way, when we go to cement it together, we know which way to cement it. Then we took them all apart and cleaned and glued them with our plumber cement. See that? Twisted until the marks lined up, and now we're just gonna wait for it to bond. This should be a pretty watertight seal now. Next, we worked on our air intake snorkel. We needed to cut this rubber 90-degree down, so we cut it around this rim, right where it starts to flare out. We're gonna clean up this cut really carefully using a razor blade. You don't wanna cut yourself. Next, we're going to cut 2 more 3-inch pieces of straight PVC pipe and glue them to our tight 90-degree angle vent pipe. Finally, once it dries, we're going to attach this to the rubber fitting we just cut down and test fit it onto the bike. So this one's going to be a little more towards the rear, but it's going to be right up against the belt intake. So this is all just test fitting. Once we clamp this down, shouldn't move. Next, we started on our belt exhaust. So we took a straight 90 and we glued a 3-inch piece of straight pipe to it. We then attached our 3-inch to 4-inch rubber adapter and fitted it up on the bike. We experimented with some different routing using different fittings until we had found something that we liked. So this is something I came up with I think is gonna work. It's a 22.5-degree angle elbow, a 3-inch straight pipe, a 45-degree elbow, a 5-inch straight pipe, and another 45-degree elbow. So it comes up around here and out there. This design also keeps it nice and far away from the exhaust. So that's all 3, how they're gonna look. You may have noticed that the height on these are a little bit different, so we're gonna measure the difference and we're gonna cut straight pipes so that they're all even. We're gonna go ahead and mark up this one with our permanent marker to show the orientation of the fittings, and then we're gonna cement it up. All right, they're all glued up now. Now we're just gonna paint them. got all the snorkels all painted up. They look pretty nice. We used the hammered black spray paint, and this is how they turned out. Not bad. Got a nice little texture to them. So we're gonna take these fittings, put them on the snorkels, and we're gonna install the snorkels onto the bike now. We're gonna need some heavy duty zip ties to help secure these snorkels in place. So don't clamp these on too tight. If you do, you won't be able to get the rubber couplers on, which install the risers. Okay, so we're gonna take some measurements to transfer onto the plastic. So the first one we're gonna wanna do is measure from the center of this push pin hole to the center of the pipe. And that's just about 2 3/8, it looks like. So we're gonna center this pipe hole with the push pin on the plastic, and then we're gonna offset the center 2 3/8. Now we're gonna measure between these two, center to center. That's just about 7 1/4. We're gonna have to offset these down here like this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure from this to this and subtract that from our 2 3/8. So we're gonna subtract 1 1/8, so 1 1/4 offset. All right, let's go mark it all out. We got a piece of the pipe that we just traced out, and now we're going to mark out the center. We're gonna go 2 3/8 off center. That's where our push pin would be. And now we're gonna go 1 1/4, should be right here. There. That's the approximate template we're gonna cut out. We punched little holes through where the centers are gonna be. This is where the push pin hole is. So we're gonna line that up. Just gonna put the pencil through the push pin hole, stick it right there. Now we're gonna straighten this. That should be pretty close. And take a permanent marker and mark the centers of the holes. We're gonna use our 4.5-inch hole saw to cut out the holes in the plastic for the snorkels to go through. You clean up the edges with some sandpaper. So before we get too far along, we want to show you that there's a breather tube right here that goes into the frame. We're gonna pop that one out and route it up the snorkels as well. You can see it has this little end fitting that pops off, and we're gonna put a barb on there and extend this up, back up through there and up the snorkels. So we fish both of these breather tubes up through here and up between the zip tie up to the center snorkel. That's where we're gonna route them up the center snorkel, so they'll be high and dry. Take these, put them on. We're gonna put these screws towards the front so that you won't see them. Next, we're gonna put the plastic cover on. We're gonna put the push pins back in. Now it looks like we could have drilled a little bit farther up, but this works. All right, so we got our warrior tips and we're gonna go ahead and install them. So the risers are installed. We got these tips and these little skins that we got installed. I think we're gonna paint these green, and then we gotta glue them up in there. While these dry, we're gonna go ahead and route the breather tubes. So we're gonna route up the breathers up through these holes here, all the way up to the tip. So we got this fuel line hose that I think is gonna work. There we go, made that connection there using the stock barb. Now we're gonna try to get the right length. So we're just gonna shove it up there and route it, and then we'll cut it off when we get to the end. Now, Dawn dish soap actually makes this job a ton easier. Just rub some on the tube. Look at that. Look how much easier it slides up through there. And then we're just gonna cut it right here. Now we're gonna run the line for this tube. we're gonna take our double-sided barb, insert it in the breather hole, take 2 hose clamps, put them on there, and connect them. Go ahead and tighten these down. Okay, so now we gotta access the front diff breather, and to do that, we're gonna take off this front hood. In these little bands here, you'll find it secured by that. I'm gonna pull that out. Now, what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna route it up into the roll cage and up. We'll probably drill a hole right here. Okay, so we're gonna take this, we pulled it free. We're actually gonna go back up with it through this loop here. There we go. And then up through the hole we just drilled. Okay, so just gonna show you how we routed this. Comes through the plastic right there where we drilled the hole. I got a little zip tie right here. We got our hose barb right here. I don't have any hose clamps on it right now. Probably add them later. It's not too critical though. This is a pretty tight fit, so not too worried. Then comes up the roll cage, got another zip tie here, and then it enters into the roll cage there, and I put enough so it comes about to the middle. So we glued on our little screens as well as our green painted tips per the Warrior riser instructions, and now we're just going to install them onto the risers. All right, so this one's the air intake, so we're going to install this one with the filter on it, push it in place, and this is the belt intake, so we're also going to have a filter on that one, push it right into place, and then this one doesn't have a filter because it's the belt exhaust. Should click right into place, and it's done. All right guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you found it useful, and if you did, make sure to smash that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. We got a ton of great installation videos as well as riding videos and product reviews that you won't want to miss. So stay tuned for that. And if you already subscribed, thank you, and see you next time.